Subutai, also spelled Subutai or Subutai, was one of the most brilliant and accomplished generals in world history, serving under Genghis Khan and his successors during the expansion of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century. Born around 1176 near the Onon River in modern-day Mongolia, Subutai came from the Uryankai clan, a forest-dwelling tribe known for their skills in hunting and tracking. Unlike many Mongol commanders who were of aristocratic lineage, Subutai was not born into a noble family, making his rise through the ranks of the Mongol military system even more remarkable. Subutai was recruited into Genghis Khan's service at a young age, likely through his older brother Jelm, who was already a trusted commander. Subutai quickly distinguished himself with his strategic insight, tactical flexibility, and logistical genius. He participated in Genghis Khan's early campaigns against the Jin dynasty in northern China, and was instrumental in developing the Mongol military's mobility and coordination across vast distances. He embraced and expanded on the use of intelligence, psychological warfare, feigned retreats, and multi-pronged assaults that became hallmarks of Mongol strategy. During the invasion of Khwarezmia in 1219 to 1221, Subutai served alongside Jebe, another prominent Mongol general. The campaign was a masterclass in mobility and relentless pursuit. Together, they led a reconnaissance force that took them across Persia, the Caucasus, and into Eastern Europe, defeating Georgian, Armenian, and Kipchak forces along the way. In 1223, Subutai and Jebe defeated a coalition of Rus princes and Cumans at the Battle of the Khalkha River. Although the Mongols withdrew afterward, it was a precursor to larger invasions of Europe to come. Under Ojide Khan, Genghis Khan's successor, Subutai played a central role in planning and executing one of the most ambitious and far-reaching campaigns of the medieval era, the Mongol invasion of Eastern and Central Europe from 1236 to 1242. Subutai orchestrated and commanded this operation with precision, leading an army that invaded and devastated large parts of Russia, Poland, Hungary, and the Balkans. His coordinated assaults at the battles of Legnica and Mohi in 1241 demonstrated his genius of maneuver warfare. At Legnica, his forces defeated a coalition of European knights and crusaders, while at Mohi, he crushed the Hungarian army by executing a complex river crossing and encirclement strategy. Subutai was a master of logistical organization, able to coordinate armies hundreds of miles apart while maintaining communication and strategic cohesion. His ability to adapt to different terrains and opponents, from Chinese fortified cities to the plains of Hungary, cemented his reputation as a military polymath. His campaigns extended over 30 countries by modern boundaries, and he fought in more than 20 major battles, reportedly never losing a single one in which he had overall command. Later in life, Subutai continued to serve the Mongol Empire but gradually stepped back from field campaigns. Despite his immense contributions, he remained humble and loyal to the Khans. He died around 1248 at the age of 72. Subutai's legacy is profound, influencing military theory and practice for centuries. Though he is less well-known in popular history compared to figures like Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great, many historians regard Subutai as one of the greatest military minds in history, unmatched in his operational range, tactical creativity, and strategic vision. Subutai's strategic methods were far ahead of their time, particularly in the way he coordinated multi-theater warfare. He often divided the Mongol army into several wings that would move independently, yet in a synchronized fashion, over thousands of kilometers. This allowed for a pincer movement or encirclement of enemy forces on a scale that had never been seen before. His use of feigned retreats and sudden ambushes often lured enemies into traps where they were annihilated. These tactics were so effective that they influenced not only the immediate outcomes of battles, but also reshaped how warfare was conceived in the medieval world. His campaigns demonstrated a deep understanding of not just military tactics, but also geopolitical realities. In Eastern Europe, Subutai used diplomacy to isolate his enemies before attacking. He exploited divisions among European kingdoms and coordinated espionage to assess weaknesses before launching his full-scale offensives. His knowledge of terrain, weather, and timing gave him a decisive edge, allowing Mongol forces to strike with devastating speed and accuracy. Subutai also played a key role in transforming the Mongol military from a primarily cavalry-based steppe force into a more diversified and capable war machine. He incorporated siege technologies from China and the Middle East, using engineers and artisans to construct siege engines for storming fortified cities. This innovation made Mongol armies capable of not only open-field dominance but also successful urban warfare. Despite his unparalleled service, Subutai never sought political power or personal glory. He remained a devoted servant to the Khanates, valuing loyalty and discipline above ambition. His humility stands in stark contrast to the vast influence he wielded over the fate of empires. He outlived Genghis Khan and served under three of his successors, Ojide, Gayuk, and Monkey Khan, continuing to advise and plan even as he aged. His legacy persisted long after his death. Subutai's campaigns were studied by later military leaders, and even modern strategists recognize his ability to synchronize operations over great distances as a precursor to modern warfare concepts. His operations prefigured aspects of blitzkrieg tactics used in the 20th century, and his emphasis on intelligence, speed, and surprise remained foundational in military theory. Although Subutai never wrote a memoir, and much of his life is known through chronicles like The Secret History of the Mongols and later Persian and European sources, his actions speak volumes. In a time when most warfare was limited by terrain, slow communication, and feudal politics, Subutai shattered all boundaries. His influence was global, reaching from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe, shaping the fate of civilizations. To this day, Subutai is remembered not just as a warrior, but as a thinker, an architect of conquest whose campaign defined an era of expansion and left an indelible mark on world history. Subutai's death around 1248 marked the end of an era, but his influence endured across continents and centuries. The Mongol Empire, which he helped expand to become the largest contiguous land empire in history, owed much of its military success to his brilliance. His campaign served not only to conquer but also to establish infrastructure for governance, communication, and trade, which later contributed to the flourishing of the Pax Mongolica, a period of relative peace and stability that facilitated exchange between East and West. In the wake of Subutai's campaigns, the Mongols established administrative outposts, postal relay systems, and secured trade routes across Eurasia. The very fact that the Silk Road could thrive during this time was in part thanks to generals like Subutai, whose suppression of resistance and pacification of large areas made travel safer than it had been for centuries. Subutai, while not directly involved in civil administration, was essential in laying the groundwork for this interconnected imperial order through his battlefield successes and strategic foresight. While his name might not be as widely recognized in the West as those of Caesar or Napoleon, military historians often place Subutai among the most effective commanders who ever lived. His campaigns are still studied in military academies, especially for lessons in maneuver warfare, coordination of dispersed forces, and the psychological aspect of combat. His ability to command troops of various ethnicities, skill sets, and backgrounds also reflected a level of inclusivity and adaptability uncommon in medieval warfare. He did not merely fight wars, he orchestrated them like symphonies of movement and precision. In Mongolia, Subutai is revered as a national hero. Statues and monuments honor his memory, and stories of his loyalty and genius are told alongside those of Genghis Khan. While many of the aristocratic Mongol generals relied on lineage or personal ties to maintain their status, Subutai's reputation was based on pure merit. He rose from humble origins to become the supreme commander of the Mongol field armies, leading some of the most complex military operations the world had ever seen, all without a drop of noble blood. This alone made him a figure of aspiration for generations of soldiers and leaders. Even outside the Mongol world, his name evoked awe. European and Middle Eastern chroniclers, while often writing from the perspective of those who feared or opposed the Mongols, still recognized Subutai's genius. He was often portrayed as the mastermind behind the terrifying effectiveness of the Mongol war machine. Despite being an enemy, he was respected for his strategic brilliance, and sometimes even admired for his almost surgical precision in war. His campaigns also left lasting scars, cities razed, cultures disrupted, populations displaced. But they also accelerated the course of history by forcing civilizations into contact with one another. Subutai's relentless march westward brought Europe face-to-face with the East in ways that had not happened before. The terror he inspired ultimately led to greater fortifications, new military alliances, and advancements in defense tactics in European societies, all shaped by the need to adapt to the Mongol threat. In the end, Subutai remains a towering figure, one of the few military leaders in history to have shaped the world on a truly continental scale. Though he sought no empire of his own, his intellect, discipline, and vision helped forge one that spanned from the Pacific shores of Asia to the edges of Central Europe. He was, in the eyes of both his allies and enemies, the embodiment of Mongol strategic mastery. Subu'tai's legacy continued to influence the Mongol military even after his death. His strategies became the blueprint for later Mongol campaigns under Kublai Khan and other successors, who inherited not just the empire but the military doctrine shaped by Subu'tai's innovations. His understanding of coordination, surprise, and adaptability became institutionalized in Mongol warfare. The very idea that separate army groups could move across thousands of miles and strike in unified operations was revolutionary and remained unrivaled until the modern era of warfare. In cultural memory, Subu'tai is remembered in different ways across regions he impacted. In Central Asia, Mongolia, he is a national icon, a symbol of Mongol strength, intelligence, and discipline. Mongolian historical literature and folklore often emphasize his wisdom, humility, and loyalty, painting him as a man who served the Khans with unwavering dedication and never used his immense power for personal gain. His life is often contrasted with other figures of the era who were driven by personal ambition or dynastic rivalry. Subu'tai's loyalty was to the vision of empire itself, an empire built on merit, unity, and disciplined command. In Russia and Eastern Europe, Subu'tai's name is often spoken with a mixture of fear and awe. His campaign into these regions left a deep mark on their histories. Cities like Kiev were sacked, entire regions depopulated, and political systems disrupted. Yet even in defeat, many European observers noted the unmatched organization and precision of the Mongol forces under his command. Chronicles from Hungary, Poland, and Russia refer to the storm from the east with an acknowledgement of the genius behind it, an intelligence that saw the battlefield as a chessboard spanning thousands of kilometers. What further elevates Subu'tai in historical standing is the contrast between his immense achievements and his personal anonymity. Unlike many conquerors who built monuments to themselves or sought kingship, Subu'tai died without great titles or lands. He left behind no autobiography, no palace, no visible mark of personal wealth. His power lay in his mind and the loyalty he commanded through performance, not politics. It is said that at the height of his influence, he commanded armies greater in size and reach than those of any other general on earth at the time, and yet he remained, in essence, a soldier. There is also a philosophical aspect to Subu'tai's legacy. He embodied a vision of warfare that was as much about intellect as brute strength. He demonstrated that understanding your enemy, psychologically, culturally, and strategically, was as vital as superior arms. He emphasized timing, coordination, and the element of surprise. His campaigns were not just victories of cavalry, but victories of thought. Today, Subu'tai stands among the pantheon of military geniuses alongside Hannibal, Alexander the Great, and Napoleon Bonaparte. But what sets him apart is the sheer scale and diversity of the terrain, peoples, and enemies he faced, and the fact that he prevailed in virtually every campaign. From the frozen steppes of Russia to the forests of Europe, from the deserts of Central Asia to the mountains of the Caucasus, Subu'tai was never outmatched. He read the land and its people like a seasoned scout and made it all part of his strategy. Though much of Subu'tai's life remains shrouded in the partial light of history, filtered through Mongol oral tradition, Chinese court records, Persian historians, and frightened European chroniclers, the image that emerges is crystal clear: a man of discipline, loyalty, and brilliance. A general who, without seeking glory, changed the fate of continents. Subu'tai remains not just a commander of armies, but a force of history itself, one whose shadow stretched as far as his campaigns reached, and whose legacy still resonates in the study of warfare today.